Well, anyway, I apologize everyone for kind of a late start. Yeah, we've been. I think everyone probably has been seeing problems with Twitter. I guess it's called X now for a while, and it's just one of the many interesting problems that we're seeing. Hold on a second. Justin, can you speak?
All right, now I can speak. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I
Okay.
got
Great.
joined on
Great.
so
Great.
many devices trying to figure out why I couldn't hear anything. All right.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Well, I guess nobody heard the first 10 minutes I was talking. Well, thank you very much for everyone. Welcome to our AMA. And we're trying to set up this. When you're not talking, Justin, can you mute? Yeah. Yeah. When we set up this AMA, because there was a lot of renewed interest in Taraxa, and we wanted to make sure that, and we saw a lot of questions across all of our social platforms. And so we are here, myself, Justin, and also, we're co-founders of the project, and Crystal is who's working on the marketing side of the project as well. So we're here to basically try to address as many of these questions that we found as we can. So we've collected a lot of questions from all of our social channels, and we're going to go through all of them today and try to answer all of it. And if you have questions, please enter them here into the channel. I think there's probably like a place where you can send a message, and yeah, we'll go through them as well. So want to make sure that all the questions are answered today, and people leave feeling like they know us pretty well. One caveat is that due to legal compliance issues, we're not really allowed to discuss anything related to coin price or anything investment related. So please be aware of that. All right, so let's get started. Yeah, so first question, right? So we categorize a lot of these questions into larger categories. So the first one is really, what is Taraxa, and why should I care about Taraxa, right? So a little bit of history. So Justin and I founded Taraxa back in 2018. I think blockchain in general is really a nascent space, right? It's a new space. There are a lot of new concepts, and there's a lot of new technology that's being built, and it changes quite a bit, and it evolves constantly, very, very quickly. And when we started building Taraxa, the thing that there were many motivating factors, but one of the major motivating factors was that we saw the technology could be better. That was true back in 2018. I think it's still true today, right? Because this is a pretty new space. A lot of things could be continuously improved. One of the primary reasons why we built it is that we believe that technology matters in the space. Infrastructure technology especially matters in the space. It remains largely invisible to everyone who uses blockchain, who trades assets, who sends coins, uses payment systems. And people don't think about it, right? If you do things correctly, people shouldn't think about it until something goes wrong, right? And then everyone starts to think about it. Everyone starts to care about it a lot more. So technology really does matter. And so one of the things that we think is very important to highlight about Taraxa is that we believe the underlying architecture of block DAG, which is what we're using to structure Taraxa's data, is really a fundamental upgrade from blockchain, right? So what we see as blockchain, or what we understand as blockchain, is really a way to organize the transactions and the blocks on these decentralized systems. It's a chain, it's a single chain of blocks. Whereas block DAG is really like a graph of blocks, right? So lots of chains kind of interconnected together. And it is a fundamental upgrade. It's a superset from a data structure perspective. It's inclusive of data structures like single chains. Graphs are inclusive of single chains, really. And it really allows us to break through a lot of the limitations that we see from single chain topologies, right? And here, of course, it deserves to mention that the block DAG concept and block DAG technology was reinvented by a few Israeli researchers, Sompolinsky and Zohar, who wrote these four really seminal papers ever since the early days of Bitcoin, proposing various ways to improve the Nakamoto consensus, culminating in this final paper called Phantom Ghost Stack, which is co-authored by Sompolitsky, Zohar, and Wyborski, which I'm sure I think a lot of you probably know who he is as well. He, I think his handle on Twitter is Shy, and he does a lot of posting, and we've been kind of talking with each other quite a bit as well. And yeah, so naively, right? This is kind of a quick crash course on why block DAG is better than blockchain, or at least why it's necessary, right? So if you think about a single chain topology, at any given time, only one block can be emitted into the network. Only one block can be emitted into the network, right? So fundamentally, that's a pretty interesting limitation. So how do you make that system fast, right? Well, you can make more blocks, right? You can say, hey, let's just make more blocks, right? Well, but the problem is you can only pick one. So if you increase the number of blocks, all you're really doing is that you're wasting more blocks. And not only are you wasting more blocks, you're sort of confusing the nodes on the network as to which block they should be building on, right? Because there's only one right answer. So which one do you pick? So actually increasing the number of blocks on a single chain topology, on a blockchain system, would not only not increase throughput, it would actually decrease the security guarantee, right? So that's a pretty bad thing. And okay, so increasing the number of blocks doesn't work. Why don't we just make each block much, much, much bigger, right? Well, okay, if you make each block much, much, much bigger, it does contain more transactions. But the problem is that blocks, as they get bigger, they travel through the network more slowly, right? It's just like, a bigger car, heavier car. Trucks move slower than motorcycles, that kind of thing, right, on the road. So again, you run into this problem that as these blocks move through the network more slowly, people start to get, again, confused about which block they should be building on, because some nodes sees this really ginormous block, some nodes don't, right? Depending on how well connected they are to the rest of the network, depending on their network diameter to the node that originated this huge block, right? So again, you're sacrificing security, right? I mean, that's just, again, it's not a great thing. Okay, so why don't we just make each machine really beefy, right? Like instead of a crappy laptop from 10 years ago or a Raspberry Pi or whatever, let's just make them all like supercomputers. Well, yeah, you could do that, right? And then let's all put them in the same room, right? So there's no latency. They're all connected to each other. So there are a lot of other projects that are actually built that way. They have extremely high hardware requirements, bandwidth requirements. They require that you sit on one of these very extremely well connected nodes, so so that they can reach the type of performance that they want. Well, in that case, it's not really decentralized anymore, right? One of the, I think, primary concepts of decentralization is really that anybody can participate in the network. Anybody can participate. If you if you require a supercomputer to participate, and you put them all together in the same place, or on a network that basically is really essentially the same place, because it's a specialized network designed to facilitate to optimize traffic between these nodes. You're no longer it's no longer kind of like a permissionless democratizing entrance, right? You need to be pretty wealthy, and you need to be pretty well connected to actually get into this network. So that sacrifices decentralization, right? So these are all the problems that you run into when you try to scale a blockchain network, right? You gotta sacrifice something. You either sacrifice security, which nobody wants, right? Or you're sacrificing decentralization, which I guess some people are okay with, because there are plenty of blockchain networks out there today that make outrageous claims about their throughput, hundreds of thousands of TPS, things like that. They're sacrificing decentralization big time, right? So if you care about security and you care about decentralization, the way is not to sacrifice them in order to increase throughput. The way is really to upgrade the technology, right? Upgrade from the single chain topology into something better. And we think BlockDAG is a prime candidate for that upgrade to happen. So again, technology matters, right? I think right now we are really seeing a gradual, I think, awareness being raised in terms of what block DAG is and why it is an upgrade from blockchain. So I think maybe in the near future, other layer ones will start seeing the light and start upgrading as well. So this is, we're part of a larger movement here, really to get people to see the light. And these types of fundamental upgrades don't occur very frequently, but when they do, I think they fundamentally, change the entire space. So that is what we're really here to do, is really to try to make this technology more widespread, make sure people understand the technology. Um, there is one other thing that I want to mention is that a lot of other projects, in their quest to really scale this, kind of rather, by now I think we can say rather antiquated blockchain technology, they use other methods, right? That don't necessarily sacrifice anything. These methods are like sharding, which basically is creating multiple versions of the same network, but connect them together. And there are these layer two solutions, which is the fancy way of saying batch processing, right? It's like kind of opening a tab when you go to the bar to get a drink. Instead of paying the bartender for every drink that you drink, you just say, hey, charge it to my card, so that we don't have to have these frequent transactions, right? So batch processing and sharding, these are technologies on another layer that is agnostic to what the underlying technologies are. So anybody, BlockDAG or whoever, can make use of it, and they would get the same scalability benefits. So they're not mutually exclusive. What we're talking about when we're saying upgrading from blockchain to BlockDAG, it's really upgrading the bottommost layer data and consensus architecture of that layer one, right? Okay, so that is what Taraxa is. That's why you should care about Taraxa, because again, technology matters, and this is a fundamental upgrade. While we are benefiting from the the research done by people like Sompolinsky and Zohar, we are ourselves have also made critical contributions to the block DAG ecosystem, right? So we have many firsts, right? First innovations that we've developed on top of block DAG. Yeah, so maybe Justin, you want to talk about some of our critical contributions to this block DAG ecosystem?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the four firsts that are important to highlight is we're the first to develop and deploy a proof of stake block DAG based blockchain. And to do that, we leverage the technology of VRFs and VDFs. So VRFs are verifiable random functions, so that gives you a mechanism for sort of selecting people. And the verifiable delay function is sort of like proof of work without actually having to just do a churning of work. So based on the VRF, you get selected to do a computation that takes a verifiable amount of delay, and we use the two in conjunction to limit the rate at which people can propose blocks in the block DAG. So that's a really major breakthrough. Gets rid of the need for proof of work in block DAG, and it's really important to being able to do block DAG at scale. We're the first to implement a means for dynamically adjusting the block DAG proposal rate based on the efficiency of block proposals being observed in terms of transaction overlap. And that's really important because there's a lot of ways you could attack a block DAG in a coordinated fashion by sort of gating your proposal rate and then doing a burst. So we dynamically adjust for that, in the presence of sort of an unknown topology. And also, we're the first to achieve true finality in block DAG. So if you're just using the ghost rule or even the longest chain rule, that gives you sort of a probabilistic finality that after some number of additional blocks have been added onto the DAG, then you're pretty sure that there's not going to be a reorg, which is a property we maintain. But by linking a PBFT consensus chain to the DAG, we're able to have true instant finality, so that as soon as PBFT comes along and confirms a section of the DAG, then we can be sure we can execute that without risk of reversion. And that really allows us to optimize the EVM. So, we have a fork of the EVM, but we can make a lot of optimizations to it, knowing that there won't be any reversion. And that allows us to achieve really high throughput and to execute a huge chunk of the DAG um, quickly. Also, the use of the DAG really improves PBFT because PBFT doesn't have to broadcast around giant blocks. It just has to broadcast around essentially the hash of a block in the block DAG to agree upon. Yeah, and so the fourth key point I wanted to make sure we mention already covered, which is that we're the first to really integrate an EVM into block DAG and to be able to leverage the advantage of the ability to produce huge transaction flow inside of a block DAG and get that executed through the EVM without bottlenecking. Without the optimizations we made to the EVM, the more transactions you start to execute, you get really poor scaling. So it takes like exponentially longer to execute a linear amount of transactions.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we're going to move on to the second category of questions that we've collected. What are Taraxa's plans going forward, right? So that was what we're really focused on doing, which is really, getting making sure that we're part of this movement to really upgrade the technology of the entire decentralized ecosystem. So what are our plans going forward? Well, I think it can be really summarized really in one word is adoption, right? So we've created and built this great technology, and obviously as engineers, we don't build things and just leave, right? So we want to make sure that people are using it. So really, after our conversion, which happened earlier this year, when we launched our official mainnet, our primary goal is going to be driving adoption to the network for people to use it. So, what are some elements to driving adoption, right? So the first one is that you have to have the right ecosystem infrastructure in place. And here we're continuing to build, optimize, and support the ledger related infrastructure, right? Things like explore community sites, stuff like that, right? So things that really are not the ledger, but they make the ledger work because they provide interfaces to users. They provide indexing services and things like that. And of course, we're also very focused building or collaborating with others to build a healthy DeFi infrastructure. This is actually a moving target, right? So when we started back in 2018, there was no DeFi, right? It didn't really exist, and it really took off. I think back in 2020 and 2021, DeFi was everywhere. So what we were seeing right now is that 80, 90%, or even more, or maybe 100% in a lot of cases, of layer one's traffic, right, or usage are all really focused on DeFi, and it's really something that I think has become not no lo- it's no longer an optional kind of set of infrastructure technologies, right? So there are a lot of components in the DeFi stack, and things like bridges, things like oracles, things like fundamental primitives such as dexes and lending protocols, compounding protocols, things like that. So these are all things that we're looking to make sure that Taraxa ecosystem is equipped with. And yeah, so these are some of the things that we're working on and focused on in terms of ecosystem infrastructure. Okay. The next large section is really what we call demonstrative applications to really help attract attention to Taraxa's ecosystem. Now, what does that mean, demonstrative, right? So we're a layer one team. So it's not really our focus to be building a lot of D apps, right? That's not, we shouldn't be doing that because obviously we should be trying to support others in the community to build D apps on our ecosystem. But sometimes we need to do stuff to get the ball rolling, right? There's a chicken and egg problem. We need to get the ball rolling. And one of the things that we really firmly believe is that uh, decentralized systems can really be leveraged to solve problems beyond finance, right? nothing wrong with finance, right? It's a perfectly good and I think a good I think vertical industry vertical to redeploy these centralized technologies. Um, it's just that everyone's doing it, right? It has this kind of become kind of a monoculture, to use an agricultural term, kind of become a monoculture of applications within the crypto space. So in prior years, we have worked on a lot of applications, in IoT, Internet of Things, in hardware, automotive, construction, IP licensing. So we worked on a lot of other projects that were not really related to finance at all, and we really, based on that experience and based on our own just life experience in general, we really truly believe that non-financial applications eventually will drastically overtake financial application as the largest, set of applications out there. The vast majority of the world is not finance, right? So we wanted to make sure that we build stuff, and build some applications to really demonstrate that, hey, you can actually use this for non-financial applications to enable innovative and novel things, that are not, speculating assets or flipping JPEGs or whatever. So we have a social analytics, decentralized social analytics ecosystem, which we're building on top of Taraxa. We built a few demonstrating applications such as Hype and Transponder. We're in the process of refining them, and yeah, we want to make sure that people get a chance to see them, use them, and just sort of have a moment saying, hey, it's true that you don't need, it doesn't, decentralized apps don't always have to be finance related, right? And this is actually a compelling use case. So we will also be releasing more articles per the permission of our previous clients, um, to release more articles in detail about some of the work that we did before. It is really our mission here to really make raise awareness not only for the underlying infrastructural technologies that we're building, things that built on block DAG, things like that, but also that, hey, there is a very large space of applications out here beyond finance, that people can actually use decentralization for good, to greatly benefit from decentralization. Okay, so that's the second category, really driving demonstrative applications to help drive attraction to, Trax's ecosystem. The third one is, of course, just continuing to raise awareness, and thank you very much for everyone who have showed up. You guys are a huge reason why we're doing all of this stuff, and thank you very much, all of you, for also spreading awareness to Taraxa and for Taraxa's innovative technologies and approaches, right, towards building applications. We are obviously working with a lot of news media, constantly pitching them, to highlight, right, this new movement. I think of upgrading blockchain into block DAG, and this new set of applications beyond finance, solving real world problems, right? And happy to talk about those if you guys have any questions. Probably talk your ears off. And we're also obviously beyond news media outlets. We're also working with social influencers and creators, to help introduce Taraxa's technologies and approaches to a new set of audience. And of course, we're reaching out to developers, talking to developers. If you're a developer or you know developers who are interested in, building on the next generation of decentralized technologies, let us know. Reach out to us. Ping us on Twitter. Ping us on, Telegram, Discord. Find us anywhere. We'll do everything we can to help you guys out. Right. So yeah. So raising awareness is obviously a third and very major component to driving adoption. Right. So this answers some of the questions that people have on what Tarax is planning to do going forward. Adoption, adoption, adoption. Right. So
Yeah, I just think maybe we want to stress that we realize that a lot of these applications do require a bridge or cross-chain communication, and hopefully that's something we can talk about a lot more in detail at the next AMA. But it's very much something we're working on to implement cross-chain communication with a contract-based light node on other chains like Ethereum, so that we can enable bridges and other cross chain communication for applications that need it, including our own, like Echo and Hype.
Yeah, exactly. We live in a multi-chain world now, and having cross-chain communications. Really, if you think about it, just a few years ago, it was kind of like a novelty. People said it was necessary, but they didn't realize why it was necessary. Didn't have a particularly compelling use case for it. With the rise of DeFi, shared liquidity across ecosystems, shared asset basis of assets across ecosystem has become a very dominant use case and a very compelling argument for having everything connected with everyone, right? Which is can only be a good thing, right? So that's yeah, bridge is no longer optional. We realize that, we understand that. We are investigating building our own bridge, as well as talking to a lot of truly decentralized bridges that we know about, constantly updating them with our progress. So yeah, so we will have a bridge one way or another. um, Great. All right. So we're going to moving to the third section or third category of questions that we've gleaned from our communities, and these are just sort of logistics, right? A lot of people have lots of very detailed questions about different types of logistical details about Taraxa, how to use it, how to interact with it. So to really top off this discussion or begin this discussion, we have a documentation site. It's called docs, docs.taraxa.io. That's docs.taraxa.io. It has all the documentation you'll ever need to understand how to use Taraxa, to understand how to interact with Taraxa. On the there's an index, and at the top few items on that index are really things that we found throughout the years that people care mostly about, right? So wallet, how do you become a validator? How do you stake? And then roadmap, right? So these are some like the top four things that I think people always ask about, right? So that's it. Remember, there's a documentation site. I would think that maybe 90% plus of the questions that we see being asked can actually be answered by the documentation site, just within those first few categories of resources. So please have a look. Let us know if anything on there looks confusing, looks wrong. We'll be more than happy to help you out here. The other thing I want to really highlight is because we have completed our native token conversion back in April of this year. So we have a lot of people who are quite old. I mean, old meaning they've been in the ecosystem for a long time, not meaning age, 'cause we don't know how old they are. But they've been around for a long time, and they've held Taraxa when it was an ERC20 token on Ethereum. So that's gone now. I just want to make it very clear. There's no more ERC20 token on Ethereum. I mean, it still exists on the blockchain because you can't erase anything on the blockchain, right? But effectively, it's non-existent. The entire balance has been mirrored over into the Taraxa mainnet. Okay, so the conversion has been completed. All the tokens that you've had on Ethereum, they have been mirrored onto the Taraxa mainnet. And the quickest way to get access to that is to go to the wallet section of the Taraxa documentation. You can also type in taraxa.io/wallet. You can go to docs.taraxa.io, and the second thing on the left side is the wallet. You can check out the wallet. It pretty much Taraxa works with any wallet that allows you to add a EVM compatible network, which, as far as I know, is almost all wallets today. So you can pretty much, I think, add a custom EVM framework. Custom EVM network on any of the large, popular wallets that you have today. It seems to be, again, like a required feature, right, for a wallet to make sense. So that works. We heavily recommend that you consider using a hardware wallet because software wallets are more prone to being hacked. Hardware wallets are not foolproof. You're still fundamentally trusting the hardware maker, right? But it's generally speaking, it's a lot harder to get hacked. It's a lot harder to steal. So we do recommend everyone get a hardware wallet. This is just kind of a public service announcement here. given how how many scammers and hackers there are out there in the space. So if you want to find out more about wallets, go to Taraxa.io/wallet or go to docs.taraxa.io and look at the second link on the left side. It's wallet. They both link to the same space. They'll tell you more than you need to know about wallets and how to get Taraxa on the wallet. So wallets. A lot of people are asking about staking. So Taraxa is a proof of stake network. What that means is that we use staking, which is basically you stake in Taraxa coins to provide uh, security against Sybil attacks. So people can't just randomly pretend to be a consensus node with no cost, right? So proof of stake or proof of work, I mean, all these like proof of whatever things, a large part of that is really providing, raising the economic cost of orchestrating an attack on the network. So in proof of stake systems, the economic asset that are used is really the gas token, which is the Traxa coin itself. So you need to stake or delegate these tokens into a validator node on the main network in order for that node to participate in consensus and actually perform all the functions that we've come to expect from a typical layer one network. So if you are holding tokens and you don't plan on speculating it or whatever, we heavily recommend that you consider staking it and delegating it to a validator node. So currently, there's a current you can find out everything you want to know about staking if you do Taraxa.io slash stake. The actual documentation, again, it's docs.taraxa.io. I think the third link down is about staking, or the fourth link down is about staking. And yeah, there's like staking everywhere. You can find out more about staking. You can stake on the community site, or you can stake directly on chain. All of those guides are available on the documentation site. Okay. We are, we're also, as mentioned before, we're continuously to improve all the infrastructure, the technical infrastructure around the ledger, not just ledger itself. And one of the things that we're working on right now is to provide people who stakers and delegators, more information about the validators themselves, giving you a performance historical track record of all the validators you're seeing, so that you can make a more informed decision, right, about the reliability of these nodes, right? So check out staking and check out these guides. You're helping to secure the network when you stake, and also earning some yields for yourself as well as the validator. So it's a win-win-win situation for everybody. So please check it out. And talking about validators, if you want to run a node, it's a really great way to, again, help secure the network. The network will not exist without node operators. So please consider becoming a validator. We released a beta version of our Light node, which has a 90% improvement on disk space usage. Our Light node actually has one of the lowest hardware resource requirements in the entire crypto ecosystem. So it's extremely cheap to run a validator. Some of these other networks out there, running one of their validators costs thousands or tens of thousands of dollars each month. It's a little ridiculous. Doesn't seem very decentralized at all. Our nodes cost under $100 a month to run. If you get the right deal, I've seen people getting crazy deals from these cloud providers, charging them like $20 a month or $30 a month to run. So we're always working hard to lower the hardware requirement and to optimize our node to be able to run on really crappy hardware. Right? That's really our goal, because the lower the bar is, that means the more people can participate and making the network more decentralized and robust. All right, so that's really the goal. If you're not focusing on decentralization, why build a decentralized network, right? The focus has to be on decentralization. Yeah, consider running a node. If you want to run a node, you can go to taraxa.io/run node. You can learn more about our current network, and there are links to the documentation. It's again, once again, on the documentation site, docs.taraxa.io. third link down on the left side, becoming a validator. It'll tell you everything you want to know about how to become a validator, how you set up a node, how do you register it, how to market yourself, right? In the community to solicit delegation from holders of the Taraxa coin. So please consider becoming a validator. It's super easy. Doesn't require crazy hardware. You don't need permission from anybody to become a validator. You don't need to ask, "Can I become a validator ever?" You can just do it, right? Again, it's kind of a sad state of affairs that a lot of other networks require you to get permission from the dev team to become a validator. That's wrong. You don't need permission to become a Taraxa delegator ever. So it's completely permissionless, the way it should be. Okay. A lot of people are asking about tokenomics. So there's a you can go to token.taraxa.io. It's a Medium article that uh, has been around for years and years, since our project's founded. And it has all the allocation, unlock schedule, all this kind of stuff that you want to know. So it's all there. It's periodically updated. I think it probably is a good idea to integrate that into the main site so that people don't have to jump around different platforms. But token.trust.io gives you all the information you want to know. There is also a economics section in the white paper, trust.io/white paper. The current economics, token economics, especially with the stake yields, are not implemented, excuse me, in exactly the same way as described in the white paper. We are in the process of integrating with snapshot.org to enable on-chain governance votes, so that we can, get everyone to vote on how they want to evolve the economics going forward. Okay, this is very, very important, because we think, well, the community yourself, the coin holders, it's really up to you to tell us, the development team, what kind of economics you want to have on this ecosystem. So, and another logistics question: a lot of people are asking, where is Taraxa listed, right? So there are a lot of these aggregator websites out there. CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap. I'm sure everyone knows who they are, what they are. Again, CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap, these are probably the two the largest aggregator websites. If you search for Taraxa or Terra on these websites, you'll see a list of exchanges on which Taraxa is listed. Use your own best judgment on which one you want to go to. Taraxa is currently not listed on any dexes. And once the bridge is done, and once we integrate a bridge, this will change, of course. We believe in uh, anything that's more decentralized, right, than centralized exchanges. So that's definitely something that we're going to target, and we're going to make sure happens. But for now, you can go to these aggregator websites and find where Terrace is listed. All right. So that's the third category of logistics detail questions. So now we have a long list of questions that didn't really seem like they could be properly categorized into really any category. So we're just going to go through them one by one. All right, let's go. So Matt, we're not going to stop until we get through every single question. Um, all right, first one. And Justin, feel free to jump in whenever. Okay. The first question is, how about CASPA, which I've heard has similar technical principles? So CASPA is a proof of work blockchain that was actually created by some of the founders or some of the inventors of BlockDAG, right? So I think Samson Linsky is one of the founders. Shai Wyborski, hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right, is also one of the core developers. They're all co-authors of that fourth paper, Phantom Ghost Stack. So yeah, they definitely they have similar technology. They're also built on Ghost Stack. Sorry, they're also built on BlockDAG, right? So I mean, obviously a great project. We talked to them quite a bit. I think in general, us as engineers, it's rare to find other people. It's a very small space of people, right? It's rare to find other people who actually understand these technologies and are interested in talking about them. So we try to grab them and talk to them whenever we can, because it's kind of just cool to talk about this tech. Because normally we don't have anyone else to talk about this stuff with. So it's really really cool. Very cool project, very cool people. Yeah, if we can do something together in the future, that'd be awesome. So that's basically it. I think there are a lot of people who are trying to compare things. So in general, I'm not a big fan of comparing different projects, right? So I think in general, I think in the crypto space, because we're such a small space, I think a win for anybody in the space is a win for everybody in the space, really. And we really should be looking at the centralized systems out in the wider world and see how much of that we can improve upon, how much accountability and transparency we can inject into decentralized processes through the use of decentralized systems. I think it's really not helpful for us to be talking about who's better, who's worse, within our own ecosystem, because we're so small, right? We're such a small emergent space. It's better to work together, and it's better to advance the state of the art together rather than try to kill each other when the wider world of centralized systems is sitting there. They don't even know that we exist, right? So that being said, I think there's always room for multiple protocols. There's always room, different use cases for different kind of things. So I think there's just room for everything, right? Yeah. Um, Justin, do you have something to say about this too, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Like conceptually, it's not totally wrong to think that you can imagine. You can think of Caspa as sort of being the successor, the block dagfication of Bitcoin. That it's a great place for store of value, for being a fundamental currency, and of course because of the advantages of blockdag for payments. Whereas Taraxa is much more, and they have a UTXO model like Bitcoin. Whereas Taraxa is much more kind of like a blockdagification of Ethereum. We have a heavy focus on the ability to do smart contracts through a blockdag. We're like basically the first project, right, that does smart contract execution in a blockdag uh, uh, ledger. And so, our focus is on, business logic and the logic of interaction, and being able to bring, the long list of applications that have been developed to run inside of the EVM into the blockdag world.
Great. Okay. Moving down the list is Taraxa AI related project. So we do make use of AI in some of the applications that we have been building. So the social analytics platforms like Echo that we're building has a lot of components in there that leverages AI models, right? They use natural language processing models. They use specific, yeah, they use some things like embeddings, which we use to detect relevance between different sets of words. And that's the same fundamental types of technologies that go into ChatGPT, for example. So these are very mature language, open source language models that we're using specifically for the social analytics projects. I think ever since we began the project, or even when I was thinking about, kind of entering the space, and this is years and years ago, I've always thought it was very interesting that AI could be potentially introduced into the consensus layer as well. There are a lot of attack patterns that can be recognized with AI, and I think, yeah, I think AI agents could be introduced into the network to actually detect attacks, to detect malicious behavior, incorrect behavior. I don't think I've seen anyone do that yet. It seems very very complicated to do correctly, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of a longer term research goal. Obviously, there's a role for AI in almost everything we do today, and yeah, we're aggressively exploring more applications and deployments. What is emission per year or halving, right? So this is one of these reasons why I think we need to have a governance vote, because I think the staking yields right now I think it's at a constant 20% APR. Was never really meant to be constant like that, right? It was meant to be a early days kind of encouragement for people to stake, because obviously in the beginning to bootstrap the network when the project is not extremely well known, and but it's obviously not sustainable, right? You don't want a perpetual constant 20% APR because that just leads to rampant inflation, right? So I think it is important for the entire network to have a capped supply. And by a capped supply, I mean there's an endpoint in and there's an endpoint in the maximum number of tokens possible, right? So what that means is that you introduce some kind of exponential decay into the emission schedule, right? So I think Bitcoin halving is an example. It's not an exponential decay, but a geometric decay, but it reaches the same end result in that eventually staking yields diminish to almost nothing, right? So, sorry, did someone else want to say something? Yeah, Justin or okay, that's fine. Um,
No, I just briefly unmuted
okay,
accidentally, but
that's
yeah.
fine. Yeah. So anything major has anything that has a major impact on the economics of the network requires absolutely requires a governance vote, right? We as a dev team we can't just sit around and just change these things willy nilly. That's the classic definition of a centralized entity, right? So we're now working hard to get that up and going, the voting mechanism to up and going, so that we will be able to get your opinion on what should happen to the yield schedule, right? All right. A lot of people are asking this: how do you transfer Terra from ERC20 to mainnet? So there is no transferring because the ERC20 contract on Ethereum is gone, right? So as mentioned before in this AMA, Taraxa has completed its conversion in April of this year, which means that the ERC20 contract on the Ethereum network is disabled, it's gone. All the balances have been mirrored over, like one to one mirrored over onto the Taraxa's mainnet. And yeah, so the best way for you to access your coins is really to visit the wallet section of the documentation. To figure out how to set up the wallet, and all your coins should be there. So go to terasa.io/wallet, or go to docs.terasa.io, and the second link down is wallet, right? So you learn all about how you can add Terasa into your favorite wallet. Most wallets today allow you to add custom EVM compatible networks. So you hopefully, if you're using a very mainstream, and you should be using a very mainstream wallet, you shouldn't run into any problems. Okay. Um, I guess a related question: how can I send Terra from KuCoin to MetaMask? So I'm guessing this is a general question. How do you send coins from an exchange into MetaMask in general? Again, first set up. Make sure your wallet's set up right. Make sure you configure MetaMask according to the guide, Terasa.io/wallet. You can follow the guide. Add to Terasa networking to MetaMask. There are a lot of diagrams and pictures, step-by-step walkthrough. It's really easy. It's really hard to mess that up. So just, instructions are extremely detailed. It's not that complicated to do. So set up the MetaMask, and then when you're transferring tokens from exchanges, make sure that the network is the Taraxa mainnet. So that will work. All right. What are the goals regarding performance, security, decentralization of the project? Okay, so that's kind of an overarching large topic. Justin, you want to talk a little bit more about this? Yeah. Hello?
Sorry, mute button getting the better of me. Yeah, so what are our goals for regarding performance, security, and decentralization? I think our biggest goal right now is definitely to drive adoption, and we view that as another way of achieving decent, or adoption and decentralization are one and the same, right? So the more people that are able to onboard with Taraxa, the more people that are able to contribute to being node runners and validators, and lowering the barrier to running a node is very important, as well as driving adoption and decentralization of applications, right? So we want to onboard applications, we want to enable those applications through bridges to multiple chains. We're internally targeting Ethereum. We'd love to bridge to other block DAG based projects. Like Caspa, and of course we also would really love to have sort of end to end multi chain bridges out there, of which there are many really good ones. Work with us as well. So hopefully those will all work. I definitely have a list of ideas for security I want to improve. The fundamental topology of Traxa being a block DAG and having a very secure PBFT layer. We don't elect single leaders and things like that allow to get higher performance, and these other allow simple linear chains to get higher performance. So we're already pretty good on security, but I definitely have some best practices and ideas from other projects that I'd love to adopt. The on chain performance in terms of TPS, we already have a very high TPS. I don't see TPS as being a bottleneck to applications being able to work on Traxa. So there are things we could do to increase the TPS. That the EVM is very much able to handle higher TPS, but then you start to run into networking issues. And even though we could go to a higher TPS, it really also again counteracts decentralization and adoption, because as Stevens kind of mentioned before, requiring more hardware from nodes or having them have to be in server rooms in the same cloud provider is a horrible form of centralization. So we want to avoid those things. So bridge adoption and lowering the technical barriers to running a nodes. Those are the really high priorities we see in the short term.
Okay, great. So moving down the list of questions, I think Justin already addressed the TPS question. Another thing I really want to emphasize here, I think I alluded to this earlier in the AMA. Um, I think a lot of people just think that more TPS is better. We need to get ever more and more TPS, to the extent that you're starting to sacrifice all these other important attributes of a decentralized network, like decentralization and security. One of the things I really want to point out is that decentralized systems are slower than centralized systems. That's just the way things are, right? In engineering, in life, in nature, right? There's no free lunch. There are always hard trade offs, right? If you want decentralization, you're going to have to sacrifice something. So decentralized networks are decentralized because there are a lot of redundancies built into it that makes it decentralized and trustless. So it is more resource intensive, and it is slower than centralized systems. That's just the fact of life. The only problem that we see with centralized systems, there are a lot of advantages to centralized systems, right? They're very easy to use, right? Great UI. They're very scalable. They're very fast. We have clouds everywhere today. I mean, deploying applications super easy. All sorts of advantages. The problem with centralized systems is that they can do whatever they want, right? They're kind of black boxes. They can cheat. They can do things that go contrary to their stated goals, to their stated operational processes. And most of the time, we don't know anything about the things that they do while they're cheating, right? So, decentralized system is really good at introducing transparency and accountability into processes, right? Ensuring that centralized systems cannot cheat. That's really the goal and really the purpose of decentralized systems, to make centralized systems trustworthy, to keep them honest, right? To really lower the cost of trust, so that everything can run more smoothly, be more automated, and overall run at a lower cost to everybody. Because trust is very expensive, right? So the goal here is really to not use decentralized systems as much, and really to use it as little as possible, because decentralized systems again are slower than centralized systems. That's just the way things are. So there's still a school of thought which we think might be misguided, we think are misguided, which tries to bring the entire application stack onto the blockchain. We were already seeing people doing that back in 2016, 2017 with pretty disastrous results. We're still seeing people trying to do that and sacrificing the underlying security and decentralization guarantees in the process. That's not really how you should be designing applications. You should use decentralized systems as little as possible, just enough so that you're keeping centralized systems honest. That's really what we're here to do. We're here to provide automated, cheap trust. All right, that's what we're doing. All right, so I think it's fine to say you want to improve the performance of decentralized networks. Nothing wrong with that. We're doing that, but not at the expense of these other characteristics such as decentralization and security that really make what we're doing special and what we're doing worthwhile. So if you're starting to hit those kind of trade-offs, it's time to ask yourself, why are you doing this in the first place, right? We're here to offer low-cost automated trust, right? To keep centralized systems honest. So people should check themselves when they see when they get into this blind pursuit of throughput, really sacrificing everything else. That's not really the right way to go. All right, next question. What do you think about 1,000 nodes like Polkadot did it? Do you think it's possible for Taraxa? So first of all, absolutely. Taraxa was designed to actually handle tens of thousands of nodes on the network. We've done simulations with thousands of nodes on our own network, and they run just fine. The reason why there aren't thousands of nodes on the network today is economics, right? Once a project reaches a certain market cap, the economic incentives will be sufficient for people to want to run more nodes. More people want to run nodes because they want to earn yield. Blockchain or decentralized systems, as they're designed today, are essentially economic ecosystems. A lot of the security guarantees, and I might say a lot of the most innovative security guarantees in decentralized systems are economics based, and that's what makes them very interesting, very efficient, and just technically super fascinating. And yeah, so there is an economic component, obviously, to the security guarantee of any decentralized network. We are very cognizant of that. And as we gain more awareness, we gain more traction, we believe naturally there'll just be more nodes. The network, from a technical perspective, can handle a lot of nodes, tens of thousands of nodes. And that's something that we definitely want to see happen. But before that can happen, awareness needs to go up, right? So let's see. With the recent price surge and growing interest for Taraxa, do you think Taraxa can integrate faster with a bridge provider like Layer Zero? And is there something the community can do to help persuade Layer Zero to integrate Taraxa? So we have been talking to Layer Zero for a while. We started talking to them since last year. We've spoken to a lot of other bridges as well, reputable bridges, decentralized bridges. I do want to make another point that most of these so-called bridges out there today are glorified cold wallets. They're centralized, not secure, can be rug anytime the creators want. So we are only talking to bridges that are truly decentralized or run by a decentralized network with a sufficient size. The challenge there is that they're right now, as far as I know, the bridges are in this business model in which they're trying to steal market share from each other, right? So they're interested in actually just like going to ecosystems that already have bridges, that already have a ton of cross-chain traffic, and just try to take that market share. So they're not too interested in integrating with new ecosystems like Taraxa, because we don't have existing cross-chain. So it's a chicken and egg kind of question that if you don't have a cross-chain bridge, the cross-chain bridges don't want to integrate with you. It's very interesting. So anyway, that's the primary motivation, commercial as well as technical motivation behind us trying to build our own bridge. It's not something that we set out to do, but it looks like it's something that we have to do in order to resolve this chicken and egg conundrum. And yeah, so the community can absolutely help to convince, I think, people like Layer Zero to integrate, by just participating in the DApps, by raising more awareness. All it's all going to be about awareness. When we actually start implementing or implement these, a lot of the newer infrastructures like the bridges, like these DeFi primitives, participate in them, right? Use them, play around with them, drive some traffic, drive more awareness. I think naturally, we become a lot more interesting for people like Layer Zero and these other bridges to integrate with. So, yeah. So, thank you very much for asking the question and offering to help. Next question. Aside from KuCoin, where else can I buy Terra? Again, I think we addressed this before in the AMA, maybe an hour ago. But you can find out about all the places where Terra is listed by going to these aggregator websites like CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko and just search for Terra, and there's a list down there that tells you where you can get Terra. So pretty standard, straightforward. Hopefully everyone knows about CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. If you don't, a quick Google search will get you there. Next one, on staking period is 30 days. Yes, on staking period is 30 days. The reason why there is a delay between on staking and when you can get your tokens is because we want to make sure that the security layer, right, which is this proof of stake security layer, is not something that's subject to crazy fast changes, right? If you have a layer of security that is critically important to making sure the network is resilient to attacks, you don't want that layer to change too drastically, right? You don't want like really quick changes. You want the changes to be gradual. You want the changes to be well known and well broadcasted, right? So that's why there's a long delay, because for security purposes. It's not for economic purposes. We're not trying to, get people to locking their tokens or whatever. It's purely as a matter of security. For reference, a lot of the scams that we saw years ago forced people to locking their tokens for like years or whatever. There's really no reason to do that. I think the 30-day delay is sufficient for people to become aware of any large changes in the security guarantee of the network. So that's already the reason. Yeah. Next one, are rewards going back to my wallet or are they auto compounded? They're not auto compounded. When you claim your staking yields, they go into your wallet. But obviously, we welcome anyone who wants to build an auto compounding DeFi primitive if they want to do that. I think that'd be kind of interesting. This question does get asked a lot. I guess everyone wants to earn interest. And yeah, so if someone wants to do that, they're more than welcome to do it. I think it'd be kind of interesting. But right now, no. If you claim your staking yields, they go into your wallet directly. If you want, you can restake them again and stake them to a different node. Do whatever you want with it. Right? It's your tokens. Can I see the number of holders somewhere? Yes, very soon, like in a matter of days. So I've already seen early beta versions of the Next Explorer, and it has a feature building, which is I think it's the top holder list. It's a feature that a lot of people in the community have asked for, so we built it. It will be coming to the Explorer very soon. Yeah, so you can see the largest wallets and their addresses and their holdings. Yeah, basically like a ranked list. Do validators, besides people who host the node, also get rewards? Um, Okay, so I don't understand what that means because if you don't host a node, you're not a validator. So there you go. That's the answer to that question. If you're a validator, that means you're hosting a node. And yes, they do earn rewards because they charge a commission, right? So if you actually go into the community side, you can see the nodes that are, or the validators are available for delegation, and you'll also find a commission rate. That's for the percent of the staking yield that they'll be charging for providing a validator service. So they do receive rewards. But of course, if you're a validator, you're obviously hosting a node. So if you're not hosting a node, you're not a validator. So hopefully that's clear. We're seeing a lot of questions asking, is there a, you know, X group, right? Dutch group, German group, Indonesian group, Vietnamese group, whatever, right? Uh, I don't think we have that many languages. If you want to start a group, by all means, start a group, right? Start a group, and in your local language, tell us about it in the main group, and we'll create a new page on the website that lists all the community sponsored localized communities so that we can all get into the right group, right? Speaking the same language. So yeah, create the group if you would like, and tell everyone about it in the main group. Yeah. Yeah. So who can I speak to regarding potential partnership? You can send emails to contact@taraxa.io. But you can probably get more attention coming to the our Discord group or our Telegram groups and just adding an admin. You can add me at Revoid. You can add Justin. I don't know Justin's uh, handles on all these platforms.
I think it's just should just be J Snap. I think.
Yeah, at Jake Snap, and yeah, just you can find us there. I hang out there all the time, maybe too much, but definitely can find the right people there.
Oh wait, no, it's actually Justin underscore Taraxa
This is on Telegram,
on Telegram. Yeah, but I think elsewhere it's let's see.
right? The same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. On the social platform, I mean, add us on Twitter too. I mean that works too. There are a lot of different places that you can find us. Yeah. So happy to talk to you. Yeah, if you want to build on Taraxa, we 2,000% welcome you. We'll do everything we can to help make sure that your development process, deployment process goes smoothly. Yeah. So thank you very much for asking that question, and hopefully we can, whoever asked it, hopefully we can be working together very very soon. Yeah. All right. So does anyone have questions? If you have questions, I guess we can do this one of two ways. I guess you can raise your hand and talk, or you can type it in to the messages. I think if you typing a message, does it just show up as a reply or something to the tweets? Or sorry, it's still relatively new at this thing. Okay, well, I mean, right now to the current listeners, does anyone want to just ask a question? Thinking maybe you should raise your hand or something that you can request to be a speaker. If you don't, you can leave your question on Twitter. You can always ask questions anytime in any of our social channels. So okay, I'm not seeing anyone wanting to speak. Hopefully, I'm getting that right. Okay. Well, thank you everyone who showed up. Thank you everyone who contributed questions. Thank you all for being a member of the Taraxa family. We really appreciate you being here, and we are, we're nothing without the community, right? So, thanks for being here, and we'll see you on the internet. All right. Bye.